All right. Hello. I see Gary's in the house and Stella and Dabby Dosen. Welcome and happy Tuesday. Of course, today we're talking about the future of book marketing and book publishing. And it's a little bit of a preview of not the presentation, but the topics we'll be covering in the Self Publish and Succeed Summit, which is happening starting on Thursday. So you can get your ticket if you haven't already. It's $20, and that includes the second edition of this. This is not the second edition, but the second edition of Self Publish and Succeed will also be sent to you. If you're international, we'll send you the ebook or the audiobook, but if you're in the US, we will ship you the fresh off the press Self Publish and Succeed second edition. Let's see, got a funny feeling that this one's all about AI and automation, sort of. So I think that that's kind of a great place for me to kick off. And I'll just, I'm going to throw my slides up here on the screen. But it's not just about AI and automation, because the interesting thing is that a lot has changed. So much has changed in the publishing industry, a decade ago and even 2 years ago, and even this year in particular. And I'm already working on my 2026 kind of kickoff video where I talk about the trends and what's happening for 2026 and what you need to pay attention to. But, this year to me, I think has been a big year on audiobooks, right? So we talked about this before, audiobooks is really, really important. And the consumption of audiobooks has been growing. But this year, audiobook production became so much more accessible and affordable for authors, as we saw, Amazon's virtual voice come into play. A lot more distribution platforms are taking the 11 Labs cloned version of people's books. And so I think it was a really, really exciting year for audiobooks. And I think next year, if anybody's been paying attention to Amazon's announcements, next year is going to be a pretty exciting year for translations, because Amazon just announced this week. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated as to what day it is and what week it is. But it just came out very recently that Amazon is now helping with translations for books. And so I'll drop their press release or announcement in the description after. Angela's off today, so I don't have my helper who usually is frantically getting all the links for us. So I think we're talking about the future. So that is not just AI, it's not just automation. And I mean, really, the future is here. And a lot of it really is around kind of how you think about it, which leads me in. I did a presentation for Ally. And so rather than show you the presentation I'm going to be putting together, I have two separate presentations kind of touching on some of these concepts in the Self Publish and Succeed Summit coming up. So you'll see some of these concepts and ideas again in the summit if you're coming, and I hope you're coming. And again, selfpublishandsucceed.com, you can grab your ticket. But and I can't drop the link. I'll do it after. It'll be in the description below after for those of you catching the replay. But this presentation that I did for Ally a few weeks back, I think touches on some of the things that I'm touching on in the two different presentations that I'm doing at the summit. So I'm not going to do the whole presentation for you today. I just want to highlight a few of the things and the thinking, and also showcase, the difference between what it was like in 2013 when my first book came out and was self-published and topped Amazon versus, what it's like to bring that book out today. So here we are. Just one sec. I have two screens now, you guys. I have gone into the whole high-tech world of two screens, but I'm a little discombobulated as far as what things show where. So don't mind me. Okay. So, and that is actually, isn't that funny? That is the wrong presentation. So there you go. You really did see a glimpse of the Self Publish and Succeed Summit slides, which is not what I wanted to show. Actually, no, you're not. You're not seeing them. This is weird. So I have two screens. Sorry, tech glitch here. But it was showing my Self Publish and Succeed live slides, which we were doing a rehearsal today. So I think that that's why you were seeing them. Okay. Ignore me. Well, don't actually. It'd be very hard for you to pay attention to the live stream if you're ignoring me. Okay. So the future of book marketing. One of the stories that I came across that I thought was funny, and I'm not going to try and put this in slideshow right now because that is what caused the other slides to pop up on my screen, but you didn't see them. So one of the funny stories that I came across was when the automobile was invented, they were putting it down the streets. They actually thought it was so dangerous that they had to have a person walking in front of the automobile with the red flag, basically saying dangerous machine coming through, which I thought was quite funny. But it also is a great story to show how slow and scared humans can be of change. And automobiles were one of the changes that completely revolutionized our world, right? Because of the automobile, the world looks completely different today. And in many ways, this is how I see AI and automation as Debbie Dawson was like, I have a funny feeling that this is all about AI and automation. And as I said, it's not necessarily, but it is, I think, important to realize that our mindset and how we react to changes and massive, evolution or revolution, whatever you want to call it, we still, it's kind of like people are walking down the street today, waving that red flag in front of the automobile driving down the street, except for they're doing that with AI. So I thought that was quite a funny, a funny little story. But then there was this one that made me laugh even harder. And there was massive resistance against the clothes washing machine. And there was an article in Women's Magazine back in the day that said it was eroding a woman's duty to use a washing machine. So again, it's kind of funny when new tools come along that are clearly making life easier, there is always a resistance to that new tool. And I mean, today is no different. And here, let me see again. Let me try one more time to see if I can give you guys this screen in large, despite my challenges over here. Let's see if that works. Okay, maybe that worked. Hopefully that did work. So that is the full screen version of the today articles, or the this year articles, right? Writers condemn startup plans to publish 8,000 books next year using AI. Will AI replace human editors? Think AI is bad for authors. The worst is yet to come. So this is, in my mind, the equivalent of people telling you not to use the clothes washing machine. And I mean, I get it. Maybe there was some dangers with that new washing machine back when it was first invented. And, certainly there was some dangers with the automobile on the road before there were rules of the road for people to follow. But I do think it's important to realize that there's always fear when there's change and there's invention and things that can be considered to adopt. So I'm not going to do this whole presentation. This is what I did for Ally. If you're a member of Ally, you can access the whole presentation. And again, also the summit, I am touching on a lot of these topics and talking about it in the summit coming up. But what I did want to talk about, and if you don't know who I am, well, hi, I'm Julie, the Book Broad. This was my journey as I became an author and launched Book Launchers. So I'm not going to take you through that whole thing. I'm not going to take you through the lies. You guys can take a quick sneak peek at that. I do think that this is important and this is vital to success going forward. So you'll notice AI and automation is not on the list of what is vital, but this is. So writing a great book, that's just the beginning, but you do need a great book. And AI can write books today. And that has raised the bar of what I think you have to do in order to have a book that grows a brand and grows a business. What does that mean? It means that writing a book that shares how to is not enough. You need to write a book that creates connection. And in order to do that, there has to be stories. There has to be something that looks back on your perspective and why you feel and believe and know what you know today. And this is so important. And there's a lot of authors that I talk to that wish to remain anonymous, or they say, I had a lovely conversation with someone a few weeks ago who said to me, I was trying to click the stop sharing button. Oh, I see my problem. Okay. Again, apologies, guys. You guys are my test bunnies for using this new technology called two screens, right? So as much as I love technology, I am not necessarily the most skilled at it all. Okay. So, all right, here we go. Maybe? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that for now so I can see you guys talking and chatting in the comments because I don't have Angela here to flag things for me. But so as much as AI can write a book today, I think that you creating human connection is vital. And I was talking to somebody recently who's like, I just want to share my tips and the steps. And I said, that's great. However, it's going to be really hard to sell that without including the story of why these steps and tips are what you're sharing today and why it matters. And he said, well, I'm not in this to be known. I'm just wanting to give back. And I said, great. If you want to give back, people need to know who you are and why you're saying what you're saying, because AI can write your book. And a lot of people don't want to read an AI book. They want to read a book written by a human and understand why this stuff matters. So in his case, he was sharing some business lessons. And I'm like, people need to know that you went bankrupt and need to know the story behind that bankruptcy that has led you to believe very fundamentally that this is principle number one of success. And I said, without that personal story behind that, this book is going to fall flat. Anyways, ultimately, he didn't want people to know much about him personally. So be it. However, I believe more strongly than ever. And of course, our hashtag is no boring book. So I've always been about sharing the story, but now more than ever, if you don't put the humanity into what you're writing, I believe your book is going to struggle more than ever. Number two is that humanity is your marketing strategy. Now, what does that mean? Well, I do believe that means you don't have to tell every story of your life, but sharing a little bit about you, getting a little vulnerable and sharing those things that you're like, ooh, some people are not going to think great about me when I tell them this story, or you're going to feel a little uncomfortable, you're getting towards the stories that you probably should share. Now, if they're completely unrelated to what you're talking about, you don't have to share them. I'm talking about those things that give people that lens into what you're sharing, that they understand why you're saying what you're saying. And then I also believe very fully success is, sure, book sales are great, but success as authors is building something bigger than your book, because, our margins are not getting bigger as authors. So we're not making $10 on books where we used to make $5, right? In some ways, it's actually the other way around for self-publishing. Our margins are holding steady while costs go up, or our margins are even shrinking a little bit. And the reality is that that's a tough situation to make money in. And success, whether it's your number one goal is impact or your number one goal is income, or they're competing, which is the case for most of us, right? Impact and income are competing as goals. That requires you to build something well beyond the book. Now, going back to the excitement of AI and automation, now it's never been easier to create more impact and income from your book. So putting the effort into creating this beautiful piece of intellectual property that is your book has now opened the door for you to create something bigger than your book, and to have these tools make that easier for you to do and more cost effective as well. Again, as much as a lot of people don't want to even look at the audiobook world with AI, the reality is that the fact that we can clone our voice or even just push a button and Amazon's virtual voice produces an audiobook means we can now make more money without having to spend a whole bunch more time or money off of the one piece of work that we've already created. The fact that Amazon is now launching translations means that we can make more money off of other people and have more impact because we can reach more people than we could reach before. So that is why I get so excited about it. And it's a choice. You don't have to do these things, but if you want to, and previously, spending another $5,000 on producing a translation wasn't in the cards, it's now an option for you. And I think that's incredibly exciting. Okay. And see, there we go. Gary says, I'm trying for world domination or market authority, whichever comes first. And in fact, I believe that as you produce great work, the tools are now there for us to get it wider and to reach more people than we ever could before. But it does go back to this first fundamental, which is you have to have a great book. You have to have a message that matters a lot to a certain reader. And when you have that and you're able to bring your humanity into it, I think you have a winning combination. But it does require you get that stuff right. You have to have a really strong message and you have to know who you're writing it for. And then you need to know your why you're writing and why it's going to matter, and bring all those together. And that can create some real magic when you then make it a really, really great product that you're putting out into the market. All right, so let's just cruise through a couple more slides on here. Oh, this was an example that I shared in the Ally presentation, and I will highlight this as well, because I think, and if you don't know who that is, it's Sara Blakely, the founder of Spanx and now Sneaks, the weird high heel shoe that's like a sneaker. I'm not a heel kind of person anyways, but let me just bring this a little larger for you to see. So why I used her as an example is because I guess we get to go back to the beginning. My apologies. Let me just swing on over here. And okay, see, I told you, you guys are my guinea pigs so that I'm good on the summit for this, and I'll probably still mess up. But AI gives you volume, so you're able to do a lot more than you ever were before. But I think humanity is what gives you the connection. And I shared this particular picture and from Sara Blakely's Instagram, but this wasn't actually the one that I wanted to share. She had a story where she was like, okay, moms, if you took your kid to school this morning and they had clothes on, you're winning. And then she told the story about how she had taken her son, I think Laser, to school, and he had a jacket on, like an Uggs like jacket. And she didn't see that he was still in his pajama bottoms and had no shirt on. And they rolled up to school, and he looks at his mom and he goes, Mom, I don't have any clothes. And so she was sharing that story. And I just love that she shares those kind of things, because, you know, it's a little messy. She's definitely a little messy. You know, if you follow her, she's not particularly great at parking her vehicle. You know, they do a great job of showing the human side of themselves. And that part is the part that you connect with. And I think that the more that we can find those little quirks, and like I said, those things that kind of make you think, oh, some people are going to think I'm dumb because I sent my kid to school with no clothes on, you know, whatever it is. Those often are those points that make a connection. But it is understanding who you are, what your brand is, and what you want to put out into the world. So you don't have to share those kind of things. But I think that she is a great example of showcasing your humanity. Okay. So carrying back on into this presentation that is now no longer on the screen. Oh, you guys, this is fun. Now, so going to the point of, I'm going to bring up this chart right here. Okay, so let me bring this onto the screen. Oh, the info was so powerful, Linda had to reboot. Tech troubles. You can join me in my tech journey today of having fun with technology, because that is what I'm doing today with my 2 screens and no Angela. It's a killer combo for me, because as you may or may not know, Angela handles all of the things for me, so I can just focus on having fun with all of you. Okay, so hopefully you can see this screen now. So the one thing I wanted to talk about was 2013, which is when my first book, More Than Cash Flow, came out, and I topped the Amazon charts for print books. So, you know, I was outselling Dan Brown, Game of Thrones series, and what worked to make that happen versus what's working now, and as I see going forward in the future. And so in 2013, the connection to other people's audiences. So for my real estate people in real estate, we were always talking about OPM, other people's money. In book publishing, I call it OPA. It's other people's audiences. And that is where the money's at. The money, the impact, all of those things. And so in 2013, my book went to #1, not because of my audience. I had about 10,000 subscribers. Now that's back when, you know, 50, 60% of your email list would open your emails and connect. And so you had, you know, 10,000 was a lot more engaged than 10,000 is today, typically. But I didn't have an audience big enough to bring a book to #1 on Amazon. But what I did have was a network of people in the real estate space talking to my ideal audience. So I had friends that ran a very sizable real estate brokerage company that also did some training to help people understand how to buy investment property. They promoted my book. I think at the time they had about 30,000 people on their list. I had some mortgage brokers and some real estate clubs that also promoted my book. And because of that, that brought it to #1 and kept it pretty high on the charts for the better part of 2013. That is still working today. In fact, in many ways, I think that that is probably the most powerful marketing tool anybody can use. So whenever somebody says to me, I hate social media, I'm not going to do it, I'm like, fine, let's go build your network, because if you have 5 good connections with people who have your reader in their audience, you can do a lot for book marketing and make a lot of impact and income from your book. So connection to other people's audiences who have your ideal reader in their audience is still, to me, the best thing that you can do. And it's the fastest. Growing your own social media, growing your own platform, those things take time and consistency. And I still think it's worth doing. But if you're launching your book tomorrow, you're not going to have time to build a big enough audience to have an impact. But that does go to author platform, still important. In 2013, while I did publish through Lightning Source, which is, everybody uses Ingram Spark now, but there wasn't Lightning Source, or there wasn't Ingram Spark back then. So I used Lightning Source and KDP, Amazon's company, for distribution. Amazon was the primary thing that you were focused on as an author back then. It was all about the bestseller flags. It was all about driving traffic to buy your book on Amazon and, ranking there. And that's what I did, right? I drove the traffic to buy my book on Amazon and topped the charts in print books for Amazon. Today, though, I think Amazon's still a valuable player, and they're doing a lot to help indie authors, but they also, let's be real, are not in it to help authors. They're in it to make conversions, and they're in it to sell and to serve their customer. So as a result, I would not put all my eggs in that Amazon basket. As everybody knows, it has become harder and harder to stand out. They've changed the algorithm. And ultimately, I think you are rewarded even on Amazon today for having traffic from multiple sources. So you don't want to just drive people to Amazon. You want to talk about your book on many places and have them go to Amazon and buy your book if that's where they choose to. So being multi-channel, multi-format, which is kind of funny because I just talked to somebody today who was just going to publish his book in ebook form. And I, smiled and I said, okay. I said, you could do that, but you're leaving more than half the market out, depending on your category, depending on your book. But in nonfiction, more than half of your sales, and in some cases, as much as 80% of your sales, are going to be in print. And I know he's like, well, why would anybody buy a print book today? I'm like, they do. They want to have it on their shelf. They want to refer to it. They want to take pictures with it. So, being multi-channel is important, but I think multi-format is really important. Multi-format means ebook, print, and audiobook. But I also think having paths to sell direct to reader is more important than ever. And just being at Author Nation, the author conference last week with 1,200, 1,300 authors in the room, direct to reader was a trend a couple years ago. It is clear that the authors that are making bank right now, they have all gone direct to reader and have built an audience. And it doesn't have to be a massive one, but if you have, 100 people who are raving fans of what you're doing, that makes all the difference. And 100 fans will buy direct from you. The Kickstarter campaigns are doing really well for some of these authors because they've got an audience that's ready, excited, that want to support them. And that makes a big, big difference in the long term for these authors. So 2013, social media followers were, frankly, more valuable because the algorithm showed your material to almost everyone. Now, very few people will ever see all of your posts. But I believe that a lot of that's shifting now to being recommended by LLM. So getting ChatGPT, getting Perplexity, getting whatever tool, Grok, to recommend you is so important. And this is something we'll talk about more at the summit on Friday. Actually, is the specific day that we'll be talking about being discovered a little bit more, and what some people are calling AEO instead of SEO, AEO, or LLMO, optimization, that sort of thing. 2013 pay-per-click ads was also really, really successful for authors. A lot of them found success with Amazon ads, but also running Facebook ads, even Google ads to their book pages and selling books that way. Still works today, but the cost per click and the cost per conversion is so high now. You might do okay on Amazon if everything's dialed in. And I still recommend you run Amazon ads for a variety of reasons. But running a Meta campaign or a Google campaign and expecting to break even on book sales, it's going to be, I don't want to say impossible, but it's very, very hard. The people who are doing that successfully have a back end, and the back end means they're selling courses, workshops, products, services on the back end, and they're using the book as the front loss leader to get people in the door. And It is a challenging world. Even we were just running, I was just meeting with my ad person today, and we didn't spend a bunch of money, but we ran some ads for the summit. And we were doing okay last week. I think it was costing us $18, which, I'm charging 20 and we're shipping people books. So you can see I'm still losing money on those people. But it was costing us $18. And then over the weekend, this went up to $100. So we only had 5 people sign up, but it averaged a cost of $100 per summit. So, cost me $80 to get those people in the door. And that is the challenge with the ads. Now, hopefully these are 5 people that didn't know about us before. They're going to come, they're going to love the summit, and maybe we'll end up working with them in some other capacity in the future. So, we'll track that cost of customer acquisition over a 6-month period to see if it was worthwhile. It's all part of the testing and fun. But you can see how if you're just selling books, this is not going to work. Ebook and print format, I touched on this, but to me, it's not about any one format. It's about what you're doing on the back end. And that can be translations, other formats. It can be international rights deals, screen deals. There's so many other strategies, courses, workshops, turning your content into a bot, which, anybody who has had a conversation with Julie the Book Bot, right? I think Gary has, and I know if Kevin Hall's here, he's talked to Julie the Book Bot. Antoine loves Julie the Book Bot. I got to meet Antoine in person last week, and he's like, I love your bot. I mean, you're cool too, but I really love your bot. So there's lots of strategies. It used to be a very formulaic approach to marketing and the funnel, right? The whole funnel thing, put people in the top and send them down to the bottom. That's not working so well anymore. And I think that you have to have an approach that meets your person where they are and builds that connection in a variety of ways. And it's interactive. People aren't content with not being able to connect with the person. So it's not this distance funnel thing and hiding behind your keyboard and nobody ever knowing who you are. There's going to be exceptions, but in general, the humanity is going to win, being where they are and connecting with them in a variety of ways, being recommended by LLMs. Those are all important. I'm also saying sales lists are 2013, right? I don't think bestseller lists really matter that much anymore. That's not to say it's not great to say you're a USA Today bestseller or, to say that you top the charts in a certain category. Celebrate those wins, absolutely. But in terms of what's going to matter to get traction, momentum, and have longevity as an author, those things don't matter. And sometimes they take so much energy, it can take away from everything else that you're doing. And again, a lot of the things, especially on Amazon, but in the whole ecosystem, they're rewarding consistent sales over time and being able to build that audience and grow month over month instead of having a big boom of a bestseller list and expecting that that's going to carry you forward. So, all right. That's kind of the gist of what I was going to talk about today, to kind of give you a taste of some of the things that we're going to dive much deeper into in the summit, but also just food for thought as you're planning your 2026. We'll have some more content coming out in December, kind of looking at the trends, looking at the must-dos, looking at the things that are going to be, mistakes in 2026. Those are all some content pieces that I'm starting to work on, research, and percolate on with my thoughts and opinions going forward for next year. But those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about at the summit this week. All right, let me go back and see what you guys are talking about, what questions you have, and I will answer all those questions. And then we've got to do our prizes, of course. I can't forget about prizes just because Angela is not here. So in fact, let's do a prize right now before I forget. So if you haven't already said hello, now's a good time, but I'm going to start with our prizes for everybody who has commented on a video in the last, I think it's actually 3 weeks that we owe prizes for. So first we'll do that, and then I'll do a prize for those of you who are here. So Beeline Bill got right in there. He's like, "Ooh, I know this game. I'm going to say hello so that I'm in it." Okay, so giveaway tool. This is one of the things that we need to see, and we also are going to do that. Okay, so first I'm going to do my random name picker. So everybody who has commented on the day a video was released in the last couple weeks, you are entered here. And your prizes are, let's see, who do we have? The Canadian 8719. So congratulations. And if you don't already have a ticket to our summit, I would like that to be your prize today. And if you do have a ticket, then email Angela at team, at booklaunchers.com, and let her know which book you would like. So we have Self-Publish and Succeed's new edition. We have Self-Promote and Succeed, and you can get audiobook, ebook, or physical book, whatever you would like. You can let her know. We also have journals. So email her, ask her about those things, and send her your address, and she will make sure you get your prize. All right, second prize is, still need music. Okay, our next one is Dr. D924. So congratulations, thank you for commenting on the day a video was released. And same thing for you. So email Angela at team@booklaunchers.com. Let her know you've won either a ticket to the summit or one of the prizes. And if you're in the US, we can ship you mugs or journals or books. But outside of the US, they have nasty fees when you cross the border with those things. So we send you electronic gifts in other countries. Okay, and then for those of you who have said hello today, we'll do one now and we'll do one after the Q&A. So you still have a chance to get in. There's 11 of you, so prize odds are pretty good today. Let's see here. Kevin. Kevin, I know you're going to say draw again. So I am going to draw again because at least you may not, but I know you may not, and I will do another draw. You can still have a prize if you want it, but generally speaking, Kevin says draw again because he's won most of our prizes. And our second winner would be Renee. So Renee, if you don't have your ticket to the summit, you have one now. And if you did get your ticket to the summit, sorry, my mouse is, there it is. The confetti was messing with my mouse. If you do have a ticket to the summit, of course, we have our journal, our #NoBoringBooks mug, and physical copies of Self-Publish and Succeed and Self-Promote and Succeed. So email Angela at team@booklaunchers.com and let her know what prize you would like. And thank you for being here. All right, let's see if you guys have any questions for me. Let's see. We've got Mr. Gunpilot from Conroe. Conroe, is that how you say it? Texas? That's cool. And then Bill had to reboot his system as well. I'm just shutting everybody down today. Somebody said, I've not finished reading More Than Cashflow, but for what I've read, it's great. Well, thank you. And that was my original book well before I knew anything that I know now about writing books. Media mail is too costly for direct sales unless it's in person. It can be. It's definitely a factor. What about running a sale on BookBub or something like that? So I'll put that on the screen. So this is something I haven't done in a little while. We've had some clients do it. So depending on which path you're going with BookBub, you have to apply to get a deal with them. And if you get it, there's a fee. And if you win it, it's tough to actually make it work, but it can be great. Like you can sell whenever and it's been a few years now, but I got a BookBub deal, a featured deal, and I think it cost me $700 or $900. And I sold that many copies of the book, but it was at 99 cents, I think. So I didn't make my money back on it, but you get a big hit and hopefully get more reviews and it gets traction. There are ads on BookBub, and I played with them a few years ago and found them ineffective, you know the word, for nonfiction. Fiction, I think it's different. And I've talked to some people who run BookBub ads, and they've said that fiction is much easier than nonfiction. So there's more play there on the fiction space than nonfiction. But I haven't done a lot, so I'm not a BookBub expert at all. It's been a few years. Let's see what else we've got going on here. We've got Alvin from Austin, Texas. And ooh, Mary Kay is watching from snowy Toronto. Yeah, it's we're supposed to drop down this weekend. So those of you who were here for Author Nation, you had perfect weather because we're going to get down to 52, which is still warmer than Mary Kay has. But yeah, we still have beautiful sunshine. It's like a warm fall day still. All right. See, Kevin said draw again. I knew it. See, thanks for being you, Kevin. All right. Is it now allowed to send an audiobook to Audible made by a clone at 11 Labs? It is not allowed. So what Audible did to answer the AI call was Amazon created virtual voice. and that gets distributed through Audible. So I think because they have done that, I suspect it will be quite some time, if, and I don't want to say if ever, but I don't think that they have plans to allow cloned voices on Audible, given that they have created this virtual voice. They're going to make more money that route. But Spotify is accepting it. There's quite a few platforms now that will accept the cloned voice that you create on 11 Labs, and so maybe in time that will force Audible to go that route. So for Self-Publish and Succeed, the second edition, I am not going to go into the studio and narrate it myself right now. I don't have time. So the Audible version that will be available on Amazon is going to be the first edition for now. And then I'm just wrapping up the 11 Labs process, and I'm going to send it to my editor just to make sure it's as clean as it can be. And then I'll give it away like I always do. So you'll be able to get the audiobook free if you want it. And I will sell it through the other platforms so that the distribution is as wide as possible. But it's not going to be on Audible at this time, just for those reasons. If I could distribute the cloned voice version, then I would do it. But I don't have the capacity right now to go in and re-record the whole thing. I am not going to use virtual voice for it. I did virtual voice for More Than Cashflow. So if you want to see it, you can go listen to a sample on More Than Cashflow on Amazon, because I don't promote that book at all, except to say that this is why I do what I do today, and that I got that book to #1. But that was virtual voice, and it's fine. It's not great. And because most of my audience will have some familiarity with me and my voice, I really don't want to have a fake robot voice on there on Audible. So that's my own personal plan with it. And I know you didn't ask that, but I took that question and went a whole other direction with it. So that was the question I was answering. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Amy's coming from Brisbane, Australia. I love it. And I think that's it. Oh, there we go. Bill said, sold a few hundred ebooks this week using BookBub new releases for less, then made a few bucks as it was only $165 and got good rankings. That's great. And I'm glad, and I appreciate you sharing another perspective, because like I said, we haven't done a lot with it, and a lot of our clients haven't had success with it either. So, all right, you guys are going easy on me today, which I don't mind, given that the summit is coming up. And I know quite a few of you are going to be there. I can't wait. All the replays are included with the $20 plus the second edition copy. So selfpublishandsucceed.com is where you get that ticket. All right, last thing we'll do is our last prize. Where's my screen? Here we go. Okay, so last prize of the day, and then I'll see if there's any last questions, and we will wrap from there. Kevin's excited for the summit. I'm excited. Thank you. And here we go. Last prize of the day. And it's going to go to Gary. All right, Gary, what have you not won yet, my friend? What can we send you? Or do you want, I think you've already got a ticket to the summit. So just let us know. I guess I'll take that off there. What you would like, of course, the mug, the journal, any of the books, to get to the summit. So email Angela at team@BookLaunchers. Oh, he says, please spin again. I wondered when I closed the screen. Thank you, Gary. You guys are awesome. All right, folks. So if you're new here today, this might be your chance. Let's see, where did it go? Did I close it? No, I didn't close it. Here we go. All right, Anthony Mummy, if time allows, how commonly do you include PCIP in the copyright? Okay, cool. I can address that really quick after we finish this last spin. Okay. And Stella, it's all the regulars today. All right, Stella, we're not spinning again. It's yours. I know you've got a ticket to the summit though. So email Angela and let her know what we can send you. team@booklaunchers.com. Maybe you need a new journal. Maybe you want a fresh mug, or you can hold on and say, hey, give me the special summit swag because we have a new item. And actually, you know what? I'll tell you guys what it is. And I'm going to tell you in Canadian speak. So whoever was my Canadian here, you're going to know what it is. And all the Americans are going to go, what? We have an awesome toque. So everybody has a chance at winning a toque. Which again, all of the Americans are going, a what? And the Canadians are going, yeah, yeah, okay, cool. This is awesome. I need a new toque, especially because it's snowing. All right. All right, friends. I can't wait to see so many of you again at the summit. And I think, oh, wait, oh, I owe you a question and answer. So, Anani Mummy, yeah, see, Stella's like, what? What the heck is a toque? It's okay. Um, Kevin doesn't even know how to spell it. This is so fun. Okay, so sorry. How commonly do you include a PCIP block in copyright for library cataloging? If library is an important part of your strategy, I do recommend you include it. Now, it is getting easier to create a PCIP block with AI. However, it generally requires that you have a cataloging expert, so you don't have to. And it will not necessarily impact your ability to get into the library. So it's 50-50. When I was at the American Library Association, I guess it's been 2 years now, but when I did a big session with librarians there on self-publishing and all the things, I talked to a lot of catalogers and it was 50-50. Some of them really, they said, I don't care what's here. I do my own cataloging. So they're not going to use the PCIP block anyways. And then others were like, yeah, if it doesn't have a PCIP block, I don't want to do it. So if it's a self-published book, I'm not going to carry it. But if they're going to catalog it themselves anyways. So if it's popular and they want to carry it, they're going to catalog it themselves. They'll do the work themselves. So it was 50-50 as to whether they felt like you had to have it or not. If you're going for schools and you're going to be in the school libraries, and that's a core part, I would pay for a cataloger to create your PCIP block. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will put a link to that in the description below afterwards. So Gary speaks Bob and Doug, so he knows what a toque is. I can't wait to have fun talking about toques and all the other things at the summit with you all. It's going to be a blast. So we'll see you on Thursday, I hope. Otherwise, we'll see you back here in a week and hope you have a great one. All right, take care. If I can get my mouse back. Oh boy, second screen troubles.